Warren Buffett, undisputably the greatest investor of our time and maybe of all time. With a net worth of over $100 billion built over a lifetime of investing and at the age of 92, the question then becomes, who could ever replace him?
I would say this, decentralization won't work unless you have the right kind of culture accompanying it.
Yeah, but we do.
Yeah, we do, but it's dependent on it.
And Greg will keep the culture.
Online speculation immediately ramped up that the top job would go to Vice Chairman Greg Abel, who currently runs all of the non-insurance operations. I spoke with Warren Buffett this weekend after the meeting and can confirm that is the current thinking among Berkshire's board of directors. The directors are in agreement that if something were to happen to me tonight, it would be Greg who would be taking over tomorrow morning.
Before anybody jumps to the conclusion that he's no Warren Buffett, let's see who he is before making that judgment. A Canadian born in Edmonton, Alberta. Greg came from humble beginnings where there was a strong emphasis on work ethic and family.
The one thing I saw early in my life was that with your family around you, with good friends, it gives you the opportunity to dream. And to me, that was the most important thing that happened to myself. I could see that opportunities existed. I also had a desire to work, so I think I just recognized that that was part of life. So I do remember the first job. We got the opportunity to deliver flyers, where you'd go out and deliver a flyer house to house, and if you delivered, a flyer, you received a quarter of a penny or whatever it was, and you've got to do the job, you've got to do it right, and you did it to start to earn and contribute back to the family. It was a real working class family where sometimes people had jobs, sometimes they didn't. You realized we're all working hard to try to advance our family, and that the parents always prioritized, okay, we're going to make sure our kids get good educations and can move forward.
In 1984, he would graduate from the University of Alberta with a degree in commerce, after which he took a fascination with accounting because he said, and I quote, "I came to realize how critically important it was to understand such things such as income and cash flow statements." This would come to serve him well later on in the years. The first proof of this was that he became a chartered accountant, eventually working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the big four auditing firms out there, eventually moving on to Cal Energy where he would meet his greatest friend and mentor.
Back in 1992, I joined Cal Energy. That's an organization that had great leadership, that had great character, great principles, and was focused on doing things right, quality. The owner of that was Walter Scott. David Sokol was the CEO, and there couldn't have been a greater mentor in my professional career.
Cal Energy would be acquired by MidAmerican, which later would be acquired by Berkshire Hathaway. While David Sokol was the acting CEO, it was in 2008 that he would step down, and he could think of no one else that could take the reins other than his best lieutenant, Greg Abel. In a very un-American greed type of fashion, David Sokol had so much confidence in his protege that he would become a better CEO that he was actually willing to give up $12.5 million of his bonus compensation just because he thought that the money should be shared. Buffett never specified why he didn't want Abel to be CEO of MidAmerica and objected. He was later convinced by Sokol otherwise. Having the opinions already stacked against him, Greg Abel would prove his abilities over the years as a CEO by making a couple key acquisitions, one of the most notable being Nevada Energy for $5.6 billion. To give a balanced perspective, this wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. For example, in 2017, Sempra Energy beat out Berkshire to buy Encore for $9.45 billion after the bankruptcy judge ruled in favor of Sempra. Despite overcoming some of the odds, Greg Abel was still not seen as the potential heir to the Berkshire empire. That title belonged to David Sokol. That would be the case until the Lubrizol incident.
Late yesterday, Berkshire Hathaway's audit committee said Buffett's former right-hand man, David Sokol, violated the company's insider trading rules and that Sokol misled Buffett about his stake in Lubrizol, which Berkshire acquired.
First of all, we know that David Sokol bought shares in this company, Lubrizol, late last year, December. He did so a day after meeting with investment bankers at Citigroup that came to him with the idea of Berkshire Hathaway possibly buying the company. He sold those shares later in the month, but he bought a whole bunch of them in early January, and then we get to the very important date of January 14th. This was the first date that David Sokol went to Warren Buffett and said, this is a company we might consider buying. Now, the audit committee says it was on that day that Sokol disclosed that he owned shares in the company, but he did not disclose how many he owned, when he started buying them, and the committee also says Warren Buffett was not told that Citigroup brought this idea to David Sokol, that Buffett just assumed that Sokol had been investing in the company for a long time and had found it as an investment on his own. We know that Warren Buffett warmed up to the idea of buying this company later that month after Sokol had a dinner with the CEO of Lubrizol, and then, of course, this big deal happened in early March, and it was on that date in March when the deal was announced that a Citigroup investment banker said to Warren Buffett, "Congratulations, we were so glad we could bring this deal to you, Eric." And it was at that point Warren Buffett essentially said, "What are you talking about?"
With Sokol taking himself out of the picture, there was only one other man who was there for a very long time that fit the intelligence, energy, and integrity Buffett usually used for judging employees: Ajit Jain. An Indian-American man who started out not even knowing how to read or write, he served Buffett for nearly 3 decades. Although he may have fit all 3 molds, there was one specific mold he didn't fit, which was Buffett wanted someone for a long tenure. Having about a decade over his predecessor, Greg Abel won out on that technicality. After that announcement was made, the reaction between Wall Street and investors sort of mirrored each other. In the announcement of Greg Abel becoming the next CEO, Jim Shanahan and Edward Jones said this was not exactly a surprise, who, despite his prior comments and vote of confidence, wanted to inject the extra comment of there may be tonal changes at the meeting with less of the wit and wisdom from Buffett and Munger, an unnecessary added comment that needed no extra color for how this analyst actually felt. Then you have this analyst, James Armstrong of Armstrong Associates, echoing the same sentiment of, it's not a surprise, Greg is the right choice to run the overall company. And as you could see, he also put in his 2 cents. This was not exclusive to the analyst, as some of the alleged investors had this to say: he's got the charisma of a drywall, but the bar is set very high when comparing to Buffett and Munger. I think Greg will be worse than Warren in terms of record and ability. However, he will be a solid CEO. If Warren trusts him, I have to. If I had to choose a surgeon between 2 guys with years of experience, one who looks like a butcher, the other could be a leading actor, I'd choose the butcher, because he's survived on pure merits alone. Like it or not, Abel is Buffett's choice. He's defied the odds and managed to make his place at Berkshire. Comparing Abel to Buffett is pointless. He's not Buffett, he's Greg Abel, and there hasn't been enough time to make that forward assumption. We're all jumping to the conclusion he's already a failure when his story is yet to be told.
Don't wanna live as an untold story. I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory. I can't hear you, I won't fear you. I live now cause the bad die last. Dodging bullets from your broken past. I